first speaker is Caroline Haglund Stignor, and she is the focus area manager of energy efficiency at RISE. And if I've understood everything right, this is the machine. We will start in innovation now, wouldn't we?
Yes, we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yes, I will talk about innovation infrastructure, how that enable market transformation. And I come from RISE, Research Institutes of Sweden, and we are really happy to be one of the co-organizers of this event. And RISE is a cross-disciplinary research institute. It's the fourth of size of its kind in Europe after Fraunhofer, CA in France, and TNO in Netherlands. Our offer is to work with transition management, with applied research and development, with testing, certification, and calibration, and also lifelong learning. When talking about innovation infrastructure today, I will not only talk about the hardware, but also about the activities and systems adjacent or associated to the innovation infrastructure. So in order to introduce new technology on a market, it's important that there are institutions for education, theoretical as well as practical. It's also important that there are institutions that can perform research and development, universities, research institutes, and a lot of research is also done within the private sector. To be able to do research in innovation funding is of high importance. And then test beds play an important role, used for research and development, for accredited testing, which is the base for certification, market surveillance, etc. Certification bodies, standardization bodies is important, and also to be able to provide expertise to support the development of policies and so on, and that could be regulatory sandboxes. And finally, support to small and medium-sized enterprises, also important. We have heard about research and innovation funding here, and since the 80s, there has been 7 consecutive research and innovation programs for heat pumping technologies. You see all the logotypes here. And one thing I wanted to mention here is the funding model. It was designed in such a way that it encouraged tight collaboration between the academia, research institutes, and also the private sector. It was simply that co-funding was requested to some extent, could be in kind. We very often had consortia consisting of competitors, different companies in the same projects. But the result of this was that the researchers worked with areas relevant for industry, and also that the results from the research projects were immediately transferred to industry. So I think that is one of the success factors behind this development of the technology in Sweden. And then test beds. They are really important to be able to perform research and development for the accredited testing, of course, which is the base for certification, market surveillance, and also to develop new test methods for new innovations, new products, for calibration, field measurements, something in between, which is like hardware in the loop test, and also to perform technology procurement competitions. All those pictures here are from our RISE test beds in Borås in southwest of Sweden, but there are also advanced laboratories for heat pumping technologies at some of our universities here in Sweden, not at least KTH here in Stockholm. Here we have seen this graph before, heat pump sales in Sweden. We had a little bit bumpy road in the beginning from the 80s, subsidies coming and going. And then in 1995, a technology procurement competition was initiated. And that was actually in a phase when this sector experienced the first phase out of refrigerant. So it was designed in a way that it encouraged the companies to develop products with new refrigerants. And then we could see that the market took off, and during that period we performed a lot of comparative testing of heat pumps. They were later replaced by market surveillance testing when the eco-design and energy labeling regulation had come into force. And during the whole period, we have performed a lot of testing for quality labels and certification schemes and so on. And when it comes to quality labels and certification, the Swedish sector and RISE have been really engaged into the development of such schemes. We started to develop our own P mark in the beginning. It's not used anymore, but the experience and knowledge of that was used, contributed to the development of other quality labels and certification schemes. And now we have the heat pump CN key mark in the bottom here, which is the most widely used European certification scheme for heat pumps today. When it comes to standardization, the Swedish heat pump sector and RISE have been really active in standardization. I will not go through all the working groups here. We do have Swedish technical committees that mirror the committees at CN level. The first one I mentioned here, working with performance testing of heat pumps, and the second one with refrigeration system safety and environmental requirements. I mentioned comparative testing before. It was performed on behalf of the Swedish Energy Agency in our laboratories in Borås on for different type of heat pumps during different campaigns. And the results from those tests were published on the Swedish Energy Agency website and served as information to end consumers. It also gave a good state-of-the-art assessment of the products that could be used for authorities and policymakers and so on. There is a lot of things in the graphs here. It is something that tells performance data for the different heat pumps. Dry heat pumps in the top and bright water or ground source heat pumps in the bottom. Without going too much into detail, we can see there is a spread, but also positive trend. So those comparative tests, they kind of clean the market from low-performing or non-performing products. It also spurred industry to develop more and more efficient products that were then put on the market. And then when we came to the development of the eco-design and energy labeling regulation, in Sweden we had a lot of knowledge and experience and also a lot of available data that could be used by the Swedish Energy Agency. And thereby we could also have impact on the threshold levels designed. This graph here is for air-to-air heat pumps. It shows different efficiency values of the heat pumps, and they were compared to the suggested threshold values, and then we could evaluate the impact of those requirements. And in this case, we could see that about half of the products tested would not pass the future eco-design requirements. But then we knew that this would push the least performing products out of the market, which was actually on-off controlled heat pumps. It also ensured that the regulations were developed in a way that it was well aligned with how we used the heat pumps on the Swedish market, which was by then the most mature market. We also used the testbeds for research and development. It's a lot of information on this slide here, but it's results from a project performed recently where we explore the possibilities to develop what we call a comfort and climate box, which is a combination of a heat pump, energy storage, smart control, and in this case, solar PV. So in this project, a prototype was developed. A method for evaluation of this smart product was also developed. It was kind of a 6-day method containing all the different seasons of the year and so on. And then we could evaluate the prototype with this newly developed method. And we can see a little bit of the results. We evaluated 2 different smart control functions, optimizing on price, optimizing on on-site produced electricity use, and combine this. And then we could see that, well, this works well. You can see here, sorry. It's here. We could see that the heat pump started to operate when the electricity price was low, and then it continued to operate when the sun came out, stopped, and didn't start again until the electricity price was lower again. So to sum up, to transform a market or a sector, to introduce a new technology, it's important that an innovation infrastructure is available and that all those parts exist. Everything from education, research, funding, test beds, certification, standardization, and so on. And saying that all those things doesn't have to exist in all countries. We have Norway, for example, is one of the countries with the highest penetration of heat pumps in Europe. But still, a lot of those heat pumps have been tested in Sweden or in Denmark. So next, further development. The technology is mature, well proven to work with existing refrigerants that we use today. But in order to reduce the climatic and environmental impact further and to adapt the product to the energy system of the future, the technology needs to be developed further, to develop smart and flexible and integrated solutions. And also heat pumps that can operate in an extended operating range with higher efficiency, lower temperature, higher temperatures for some type of buildings, district heating, and not at least industry. We need to develop products that are and systems for refrigerants with reduced environmental impact, and also to develop products that are better adapted to a circular economy. And then it's important to ensure availability to an appropriate innovation infrastructure.
That was it.
Thank
you. Thank you so much. And I especially appreciate how you, with this long list of what we did in Sweden, what we now, when we look forward, can actually see what is the best, how can we pick the cherries if we cherries, what do you say? Cherries. I can't speak English today. From other countries, since we are so different. So what would you like to emphasize? Is it this testing and that you really were so early in the transparency here with the energy agency, etc.? Was that really the key, that people themselves, could reach this information? Or it seems quite important to me.
I think it's many different components here. Yes, the tight collaboration with companies and research, I think that's important, but also to build consumer trust.
Yes.
It's really, really important. So those comparative testing that we made and published, and the results were published in a way that it was possible for any consumer to use the information. It is important, and when this is done by an agency, it builds trust. It builds trust in the technology. But you should also mention the part. It was some products coming to our lab, first test point, and then out again. So
it was a good push for innovation.
Yes, it was a good push for innovation. Yes, indeed.
Sometimes transparency can be such a strong tool, just showing the results and trusting that people actually can go in and
I think it was a really clever investment from the Swedish Energy Agency to make all those.
It was a clever thing of them to do, and it was also a lot of people that were clever themselves. So the combination was great. Thank you so much, Caroline. Why don't you take a seat over there?